Sure.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm super honored to do this with you.
Of course, of course. Where are you based?
So I live in Australia, but I'm currently in Arizona preparing for a race in 2 weeks' time.
Oh man, that's coming up.
Yeah,
Well, before we get into all that, so I want you to kind of tell everyone a little bit about yourself, why you got into running, and kind of where it all started.
cool. Yeah. So I am 27 years old now. I grew up in Melbourne, Australia, and I ran my first 100 kilometers at the age of 15.
Wow.
So I have been doing this for 12 years now. My kind of niche is the 100-kilometer, 100-mile trail ultra running is like the long
Wow.
description of what I do.
Yeah.
And I got in it through my dad. So that race that I was 15, he was 50, and we ran side by side together for 12 and a half hours.
Oh my God.
And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with just moving through nature, moving through the day, watching the sun rise, the sun set, and
Wow.
realizing the power of just being able to move on your own 2 feet, put everything on your back, and also just riding that wave of emotions. When you go these distances, they say you live life in a day, and that's what it felt like. I
Wow.
felt like I was born, reborn, died, everything.
Yeah, jeez. Okay, so I'm a sprinter. Right? So my specialty when I ran track was 100, 200, 4 by 1. So how do you let me say it a different way because I can just say how do you do it, but what I guess prompted you to say, "Hey, all out of all the running events that I could do, I want to run as far as possible that is almost on a level that's almost humanly impossible." Like what was that spark outside of, I guess, I'm assuming obviously your father was running before you kind of decided to kind of jump in. Did you kind of go to some of his training? Was he your trainer? Like how did you just say this is the race that I want to do? Because you could have did the mile, right?
Totally. And
So
I
like,
tried.
yeah, okay. So why didn't you want to do the mile? Like why wasn't that enough?
Well, I always say that I'm built like a diesel engine. Like I take a little bit to get going, but once I'm going, I'll just do that pace all day long.
Wow.
And I remember doing like cross country and athletics at school, and I was just by the time I'd gotten up, people were finishing the 100 meters. I
Yeah.
was well just not built for it.
Yeah.
Um, and I watched my dad. He trained for a lot of road marathons, and then he was looking for a new challenge and went to the trails. And so I used to ride my bike next to him as he ran. And then when the trails got gnarlier, I would just ditch the bike and just join him.
Wow.
And through watching him, I loved the low intensity, slow grind.
Mm.
That just spoke to my soul. I'm not like a fast, full tilt. I live life slowly. Everything I do, I annoy all my friends with my pace of everything. But I am like I can go all day at that pace.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, look, kudos to you. That is something that I wouldn't even know where to start. I know I remember I ran cross country 1 year in high school and actually did okay. But I was like, man, kudos to runners that can run more than this and finish and still be alive. Because I know for me, I probably would have like passed out probably 3 minutes into the race. So I would have to say kudos to you. But yeah, so let's kind of jump into some of the recent things that you've been doing. So I know you've recently achieved the incredible feat of completing the UTMB in the Iron World Championships in the same year, right? How
Yeah.
did you do that? Like, and what motivated you to take, or what motivated you to kind of take on such a challenging double? And how did you prepare for these events?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that kind of the universe set me up for this. So, to get into both of those races, you have to qualify through other races. I did my first Ironman at Western Australia, and it was a bucket list one and done type of project I wanted to do, and I was doing it to take a step back from ultra running because I just felt like I had almost outrun my love of running a little bit. So
Mm.
I thought adding in some swim and cycling would just spice it up a little bit. And so I did it, managed to qualify by having just a great day out there, mainly
Wow.
due to it finishing with a run was just a blessing for me
Yeah.
because I was able to finish with my favorite thing. And so that qualified me for the Kona World Championships. And then I ran a 100-mile race in New Zealand that I went to from America. I'd been training in Boulder in the snow, flew to New Zealand summer, and won that race. And that gave me an entry into UTMB. So I feel like
Mhm.
the two races are incredible individually. The process to get into them is super challenging. And so when I got offered each spot, I was like, oh, it's just such a blessing for this to be an opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Then I looked at the calendar and I was like, okay, it's like, 6 weeks between.
Wow.
Is this like a thing? And I was fortunate enough that the way that it worked out with running, UTMB took me 27 and a half hours of just running through the mountains.
Wow.
So that race starts in France, goes through Italy, Switzerland, up and over the mountains. And then to recover from that, I swam and cycled my way to recovery
Wow.
for Kona. And I thought, if I can run 100 miles in the mountains, I can run a marathon on the coast of Hawaii.
Wow. Wow. That is like mind blowing to me. So during these races, right? Like what are you thinking about? Like what is going on in Lucy's head when you're running those 100 miles and you're cycling, you're doing all these things? Like how do you keep yourself going?
Oh, I mean, so much cycles through your brain, right? Like when you have 27 hours to think about everything and anything. I feel like, I do find myself, especially a couple of hours in, sinking into that kind of flow state, where just time passes and you're just like, I don't even know what I did for the last 6 hours except for put left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Yeah.
Um, but it's crazy. There's moments where you think like, this is amazing. I'm unstoppable. How good's running? And there's moments of like, why do I do this? I hate this. Why is this my profession? I could have a desk job. It would be
Right.
great. you know? And so, you just kind of everything and anything can enter your headspace. And I think that's one of the beautiful things because I learned so much about myself and my brain when I give it that opportunity to go wherever it wants to go.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, that again is phenomenal. And I can only imagine how many thoughts you have while going through all of those long hours. So, wow, kudos to you again. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you kind of share more detail, kind of like the experience with transitioning from ultra running to triathlon?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, I went to triathlon just as like a bit of a fun little change, a shift in training. I had a ultra race that went really poorly. I actually fell and didn't finish, and
Mm.
I trained so hard for that race that it really rattled me. I kind of, you can train so hard and you can be so ready, and one misstep and you can completely end that day.
Mm.
And I think it was after COVID, and that race had been my golden light at the end of the tunnel of lockdown.
Got it.
So to have that kind of fall apart, I just needed a change of scenery. And I think what more I needed was I loved being a student again. And in triathlon, I wasn't a good swimmer, I wasn't a good cyclist, and so I wanted to learn about these other sports and communities and just be a student and learn and have like big progression rather than when you've done something for 12 years, you just
Yeah.
minutely, a second is like a PB and you're excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's been cool because what I like learned through training for the triathlon, and I still apply it to my running, is that, you can get strong on the bike for running without the impact. So it's a lot more sustainable and healthy. And then swimming for me is just like a meditation. It's, you put your head in the water, no one can talk to you, you can't be on Instagram, it's just
Yeah.
like you and your mind again. And so it was just really cool. And to do UTMB, which is like the pinnacle of ultra running, and then Ironman World Championships, the pinnacle of triathlon, next to
Mm.
each other, I got to experience the highest form of each sport. And especially
Yeah.
with Kona being an all women's year this year, which is the first time ever they'd split men and women. It was super special to share the island with just fierce females and to send it and see what happened.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So since I know this is probably a question I'm sure you get asked a lot, but because you do so much, right? And for some people, swimming is like their form of like self-care, self-relaxation. Running is also something that people do also to kind of relax and decompress. How do you like what is your form of like self-care, decompressing? Like how do you spend time with Lucy when it's not, running and doing all these other things, many, many things that you're doing? That how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, for me, definitely it's cooking.
Oh,
I absolutely love to spend time in the kitchen, make recipes that take the process. That's definitely like if I'm not moving my body, which comes with, when you're a professional athlete, the expectation around doing that is probably contradicted to self-love because it's
yeah.
expectations and pressure.
Yeah.
So for me, it's in the kitchen where, I mean, half the recipes don't work. It all tastes fine. I'll eat it anyway.
Right, right. And you're vegan
I
as well, right?
am,
How
yeah.
long have you been vegan?
Like 9 years now.
Wow. So my husband has been vegan 8 years now.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I'm like, probably about 90% vegan. But I'm still like a fish person, so I'm trying to like get past that. But so how does like having a vegan diet as a professional athlete, how does that play a role in your success?
Yeah. I mean, so I've run professionally. Obviously, my career has been 12
Yeah.
years and I've been vegan for 9 years. So it kind of, I have had some time where I was eating meat and being more conventional. For me, I found that especially taking out the meat at the end of the day meant that I slept a lot better.
Mm.
And I kind of like when I think about it and you put something in to you that takes a lot longer to digest, it just means that while you're sleeping, you're digesting rather than like all the other processes that start happening.
Yep.
But this is personal to me.
Yeah.
What's important though is that you do it right. Like
Yeah.
I studied so much. I spend so much time on my food because I can. I'm 27. I don't have kids. I don't even look after
Right.
plants. Like
Yeah.
um and so I can spend time and put effort and energy into it. And it doesn't work for people that just remove a food group and that's it. You have to be, you do have to be more aware and eat smartly, and that's just something that like I ethically and environmentally put as a priority.
I love that. I love that. I myself have honestly noticed, and I know like all my friends that eat meat, they're probably not gonna be happy about this, but eat meat a lot. I have noticed when I was fully vegan for like some of my football seasons versus when I was kind of intertwining the two, um, I honestly performed better. I had more energy, which was you would think because you're not eating as heavy and as much, and you're not eating, meat and everything else, that you would have a lack of energy, but I felt like so much lighter. I don't know how to
Mm.
explain it. And I felt more connected to nature and God. It was just a very surreal experience. And that's what I feel like I'm trying to get back to. But man, like, fish is just very hard for me to let go completely. But I feel like in the next year or two, I'm gonna be there, and I'm excited about that journey again. So, man, kudos to you. And then being a distance runner, I already that's a whole nother level. So how do you? And now I'm going completely off script, but I have to know. I'm a food like fanatic, right? Like I do a lot of research as well. So how do you get like your carbs and your protein? I know this is probably a very cliche question, but let's just. I know there's a lot of people that might not know a lot about veganism, so kind of just tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really basic. I eat a very simple diet, especially because I travel so much. I want things that I can get anywhere in the world. So I'm like eating rice, beans, potatoes, oats, bread. I'm lucky that I don't have any gluten or anything. My basic carbs are just my best friend, and I take them everywhere. And then like proteins, just like beans, tofu, anything, lentils, things like that. And then I do supplement with like a protein powder if I need to while traveling. I think you see recipes for vegan food, and it's complicated. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you can simplify that stuff down, and that's what I choose to do. And I think what's really important is like, and for you, it's probably, I say this more for you, is like, it's less like you can 90% plant-based is just as good as 100%. You know, you don't need to, as long as you're, I think, just
Yeah.
aware and ethical maybe in the production of it and where you buy and where you spend your money, that's
Yeah.
worth more than anything. And so I think, you know, labels are labels. You know, I
Yeah.
don't even really say like, hi, I'm Lucy, I'm vegan. You know,
Right.
it's
There are some people that do that, so yes.
Oh yeah. Don't put me in that boat.
Yeah, no, look, I love that. So you keep it simple. You're not like overly complicating your diet, which I think that's what scares people because it's like, oh my gosh, I have to eat this and this and this and this, and I have to make these recipes when it can't. And I feel like nowadays there's so many vegan places to eat at. It actually has made it a lot easier, to be quite honest. But okay, let's get back on track. Okay, let me find my place because I feel like we kind of answered some of these questions, which is awesome. Um, so I know you kind of talked about this a little bit, but let's kind of touch on mental health a little bit, definitely with being an athlete. So I know you mentioned losing some joy in racing and following your podium finish at Western States 100 in 2018 and facing being disqualified in 2022,
Hmm.
right? A DNF. Um, how did these experiences influence your decision to venture into triathlon? And then also, when you were going through that mentally, how were you able to kind of just recover from that? Because obviously, I know those are very, very big things to kind of go through. And then also, still try to make sure you can like pick yourself up and move on to the next thing. So kind of like where were you at mentally? How did you get past it? And then again, and I know again you kind of talked about this, but how did that kind of push you into triathlon?
Yeah, definitely. So 2018, I ran this race, Western States 100. It's a 100-mile race in California, kind of like considered the grandfather of ultra running, first 100 miler that kind of is on everyone's bucket list. I was given an opportunity to do it through the world tour, and I was 22 at the time. And I remember getting the email, getting in, and just thinking, I'm leaving no stone unturned. I don't want to like take this opportunity and not give it everything. And I gave it everything and more and too much. You know, I sold my soul to that race. I put myself in an unhealthy position. And the thing was, and this is generally how it goes now in hindsight and watching other people do the same, have the same story, is that you have success while you're putting yourself through an unhealthy state, and you start to, it just creates this cycle of positive affirmation. You're doing it right, get smaller, get faster, you're winning, this is good. And the thing is like when I came third at Western States, you know, overnight I gained 50,000 Instagram followers. I had suddenly pressure, people looking at me, and just people were following me and met me at that state, and that was
Mm,
not sustainable. And so then when my body kind of just went, we got to stop, like hard press on the brakes at the end. So I changed, my body just started to, you know, it needed to change, and it did what it needed to do. But I had a lot of people watching and being like, what the hell is going on? Like, you know,
yeah,
she was doing so well and now she's not, and she was small, now she's bigger than that. And it was just kind of like I was 22 and changing and just trying to like negotiate, having people criticize and give me their opinions, and just so much at the same time as like I knew I was returning to that race. I had a contract. My career was kind of like made in that race.
yeah,
So that was really challenging. The thing that, you know, I was grateful for when COVID hit, because it meant that I just was back in Australia. I had time to be like, Lucy, who are you away from being an athlete? Who are you away from your body size? Who are you when you don't run for 3 to 4 hours a day? Like,
yeah,
you know, what else do you enjoy? And I realized like I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm so much more.
yes,
And that was so important. So then when I exited, COVID finished, I went back to Western States and I was like, I'm going to put forward my healthiest, best version. And so for that to DNF, I was just like,
yeah,
are you kidding me, man? Like I did so much inner work and you won't let me
Yeah.
finish.
Wow.
So that's when triathlon came in and I was like, do you know what? If I can have a body that can swim and cycle and run and jump and hug and, do all these things, that beats a body that will crumble at the sight of anything. And
Yeah.
so that's where Ironman and triathlon came into the world.
Wow. Wow. Man, that's actually that kind of hits home for me in a way because I felt very similar to you. I guess I can kind of put myself in the mindset that you must have been in when I was training super hard to make the USA Olympic rugby team. And I traveled to New Zealand to train. I went to London. I went to Australia. I went to, like all around the world just to like really understand the game of rugby. And I remember my body was telling me like, "Hey, red flag, waving, like you need to slow down." And I'm like, "No, I gotta go hard. I gotta hard." And like you said, like you put everything into training. You put everything into your diet, making sure you're the right size, you're getting what you need, you have the best trainers, whatever it may be. And then I remember getting to the point to where I was this close to actually being able to perform in front of the USA coach. And my body just burnt out the same day. And I remember like walking and it felt like I was running. And I ended up I went through like a very bad depression and it was a lot. But that pushed me into football, which has been like my new, like, I guess, baby now, outside, because it was track, then it was rugby, and now it's football. And you just never know what God has planned for you. And look at all the amazing things that you're doing now. I mean, so that is a testament to like you just never know when it's time for another door to open and what's behind that door. So I absolutely love that. Okay, so I have probably like 50 more questions to ask you because your story is amazing. But we're gonna start. I'm gonna ask you one more tough question, and then we're gonna have a little bit of fun if you're okay with that. All
Okay.
right,
Yes.
all right. So, what do you think, if any, needs to change in the sport of pro running?
In the sport of trail pro running is probably
Yes,
what I can speak to.
yes,
Yeah. I think what needs to change is, I mean, we still need to figure out the sport of running as a whole post COVID boomed, right? It was the
yeah,
one sport that you could just go out and do, didn't have to, it was very socially distanced. And I feel like we're still trying to find our feet in how to kind of make everyone happy, make the races that were small, grand scale. And like there's a lot of money now being pumped into this sport. And
yeah,
there's a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders. And with that comes politics
yep,
and it comes suddenly disparities between who's getting support because they asked and who's like too
mm,
humble to put their hand up and say, hey, I kind of am doing a lot here, but not getting a lot in return. And it's
yeah,
a big passion of mine to see especially the females in the sport speak up. A rising tide lifts all boats,
yes.
and that's something that I'm very passionate about because now there's money here. I think we can all stand up and make some change, which will mean that if young girls will see it so they can believe it, and then they can make this a career of their own in the future.
I love that. You actually answered one of my last questions, which is, what would you tell a little girl who wants to be Lucy?
Oh,
Like what mindset do you think she needs to have? What challenges might she face? But just know that she will be able to overcome. And yeah, like what would you say to that little girl that's like, Lucy, I'm your biggest fan. Like I want to be you.
dude, I'd say don't be me, be you, man.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you can know who you are and what you stand for, I think I so badly have always, in everything I've done in school and before running, have wanted to be liked and to be fit in. And I would, chameleon my way through things just to kind of like, and I think if you can be strong and stand for what you want to stand for and have your beliefs and know your why and be strong in that and just sell that to the public, not a persona,
Mm,
it's so much easier and you're going to have so much more fun. And I think you'll find that you'll actually be more liked doing that.
yes. Yes, yes, yes. Parents who's watching, whose child wants to get into professional running, like Lucy, please pass this message on. Don't just be you. You being you is enough. Okay? All right. So let's have some fun really quick, right?
Uh-huh.
First of all, let me ask, are you single?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. All right. So I have this fun little segment called intentional dating. So I'm gonna ask you a few fun questions. Nothing too complicated, just fun. And then yeah, we're just gonna have a little fun, right? All right, you
Go.
ready? Okay. So what would your ideal partner look like? Like what would he do? What would it, like all of that. Like kind of tell me like what your ideal partner would look like and be.
It's so funny. I was talking about this with some girlfriends this weekend. I was like, I really want to get a visa for America. So if I could find an American, perfect.
Wait, why an American?
I want a visa. I want to get so I can stay.
Yeah, look, I get it. Okay. Does it have to be a certain height, look a certain way,
Not worried
anything?
about height, not worried about looks. More like I want someone who likes the outdoors. Obviously, I spend a lot of time out there, and if they could want
Yes.
to crew me for 27 hours, they've got to be awake for. So, some good
Wow.
endurance would be very nice. But I don't want like a serious runner. This is the thing. I don't want to talk about running, man. I coach, I do
Really?
podcasts, I run. No,
Yeah.
I don't mind you being interested in running and like jogging with me for my easy runs, but I don't need you sitting in front of me and making me feel bad about my running. Like you can
Okay.
mid-packer runner. Love
Yeah.
it.
So
Hobby
like
jogger.
y'all couldn't like train together?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit, a little
Okay.
bit.
A
Like
little bit.
3 out of
Okay.
the 7 days.
Got you. Okay, okay. Not all the time, okay? First of all, because you are doing so much, how do you have time? Do you think you have time for a partner?
Yeah, this I don't think so at the moment. I don't even remember to like water a plant. I think my
So you can't
dogs
water a
half.
relationship right now.
Yeah, my succulents die, man. It's not good.
Oh man. No, we can't have that happen. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, well, with that being said, what would be like an ideal first date? Like if he, came to you and was like, "Hey, I'm doing this for you." Like, what would it be that would be like, "Oh my God, you're probably the one," maybe.
Oh man. I feel like just, going out into nature would be nice. We don't have to run through it. We can just walk through it. We can go climbing. We could go surfing. We could, like I'm up for anything. It doesn't have to be the thing that I'm good at. We could do something that we're both bad at, or maybe he's good and he can teach me.
Yeah,
And then if we could just follow that up with some food, that would be the way to my heart.
that makes so much sense. Okay,
Yeah.
so what are your like absolute deal breakers? Like, no, if you have any of these qualities or whatever, don't even talk to me.
I wouldn't bother talking to me if I was a guy that smoked. I just cannot.
Mm, okay.
And I mean, just someone who can't laugh at themselves, who aren't relaxed and go with the flow. I think people realize pretty quickly that my life is just chaos. It's just a tornado that sucks things in and spits things out. And
Right.
so you got to put your hands in the air and just enjoy it for what it is.
I love that. Okay. All right. So last question. Does your ideal person, do they have to be like in shape, into fitness, or can they be like someone that works out maybe, here and there, but not a lot?
Oh, here and there and not a lot. I don't mind.
Okay.
That doesn't have to be that's not their everything. I want them to be like
Right.
healthy for sure and able to do whatever they wanted. I want them to be able to jog a little bit or hike or surf or rock climb.
Okay.
But they don't have to be good at anything. I don't
Okay.
mind.
Okay, cool. All right. I love that. Like very simple. You're not asking for a
Uh,
lot. So
uh.
fellas, if that sounds like you, sounds like Lucy's DMs are wide open for that. Might not have a lot of time, but they seem like they're kind of open, kind of ish. Uh,
After the race in two
yes.
weeks, I can talk.
Oh, that's another good question. One more. Do they have to be like at every like event that you have? Like is that
No.
like a thing? Okay.
No, I've been doing this solo for so long that I'm pretty sufficient.
Yeah.
but there, regardless of a win or a loss, I think is important.
Oh man, wait, I got one more question I have to ask, which is so obvious. Do they have to be faster than your dad?
I think Dad will accept them more if they weren't.
Okay, right. I love that. Okay, okay. All right, Lucy. So, what do you have coming up that we can kind of follow, tune into? Just kind of give us some like here are a few things that you guys can, be a part of and support.
Yeah, totally. So I've got this race coming up in 2 weeks. It's called the Black Canyon 100K, held in Arizona. Top three of that race go to Western States. So it'd be returning a full circle moment back to
Wow.
that event. But it's definitely not a given. And then later on in the year, I'll return to UTMB, back to France, try and do that big lap again, faster than 27 hours. And then I have planned to do the Ironman World Championship 70.3, so the half distance in New Zealand.
Wow.
So dabble my feet back into triathlon because I just can't let it go yet.
Yeah. Wow. You have a lot coming up. And then, all right, since you've been in New Zealand a few times, right? Quite a few times. Can you please tell everyone watching how amazing New Zealand is? Isn't
Dude,
it like surreal?
it's unreal. That, especially that South Island, is has my heart. Queenstown, it's
Oh
like a
my
little Europe.
God.
It's the
Yes,
friendliest people. It's so
literally.
close to Australia, so it's so convenient. Yes, it's a must visit for everybody.
Yes. All right. Told everybody so that has told me it can't be that amazing. Yes, it freaking is. It really is. So but thank you so much, Lucy, for being a great sport. I am gonna be rooting for you, fingers crossed, for all of your success. I know you're gonna kill it. And I can't wait to interview you again and when you kind of tell me about how you won all of your amazing races. And beat your
Well,
times, beat your
I
PRs.
can't appreciate more what you have done for women in sport and like using your platform. It's so inspiring. I was watching you do your agility today, and I was like, dude, I'd get real lightheaded if I moved that fast. I couldn't do it.
Thank you. Look, I'll try. I'll try. I'm coming back from this ACL injury, so I'm trying to just get back to being Santia, the athlete. So it's been a journey, but I appreciate that.
Dude, slingshot effect. Pull back to fly forward. I reckon this is your year.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you. All right, Lucy. Well, you have a good one.
Likewise. Thank you. See you,
Bye.
everyone.